It is 12:36 on Sunday, September 20th, and I had to post another video, right? Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Justice Ginsburg died on the 18th, so it's been 2 days, and you know, conservatives are doing what the conservatives are going to do. Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham and everybody else, they're being just as hypocritical as everybody assumed. I mean, anybody who thought that they would do anything different, you know, I got some beachfront property in Arizona to sell you. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about what Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all the other Democrats are doing, and the game that they're playing, because they're playing a very dangerous game right now. We're not really experiencing governance. We're experiencing a Klan rally. That's what we're experiencing. We're experiencing a Klan rally. This is white supremacy just out in the open, right? I watched Nancy Pelosi's interview with George Stephanopoulos, that fucking guy. He's basically the Clintons' adopted son, so, you know, and she's talking about she has what did she say? A quiver. She has a quiver full of arrows that she doesn't want to discuss. She's quivering all right, but she ain't discussing shit because she ain't gonna do shit, right? Let's really delve into this pro-life thing, right? If you want to know what the origins of the pro-life movement really is, I would strongly recommend you go look up a guy named Schaefer. I think his name is Paul Schaefer was David Letterman's band dude, but there's this guy named Schaefer, Frank Schaefer. He's the son of the prominent pastor Schaefer who started the whole moral majority thing with Swaggart and the rest of them, right? He's the son of that dude, and he's written a book, and John Pavlovitz is a pastor who's come out a little bit about white supremacy, because that's what we're facing here. We're facing white supremacy, and abortion is just a cog in that, right? Democrats aren't really pro-choice, man, and Republicans aren't really pro-life. They really aren't. They really are not. They're not. That whole pro-life thing, George Carlin, the great George Carlin, man, I miss that dude. I wish he was alive now. George Carlin has a bit about pro-life, right? You know, that he talks about how they're all for pro-life, but once the baby's born, right, there's no Head Start, there's no neonatal, there's no daycare, there's no nothing. Pro-life, you're fine, you know, you're born, you're fucked, right? But it's not just about that pro-life kind of thing, man. There used to be a Illinois Democrat by the name of Dan Lipinski, right? I think he lost in 2018. Finally, he lost in 2018. The reason that I bring up Dan Lipinski, and you can look this dude up, he's very pro-life, and he's very, he votes along those evangelical lines, right? Nancy Pelosi backed him up. The Democratic establishment backed this dude up for multiple elections. Remember, the House of Representatives get elected every 2 years, and Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic leadership and the money that she raised went to Dan Lipinski for several election cycles to keep him in, right? Democrats and Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic leadership have no problem with pro-life stances. They really don't. They really don't. They really don't. Okay? If you want to see how okay they are with pro-life stances, go look up some of Rachel Maddow's exposés on what the Republican Party did for Planned Parenthood. In my last video, I got a comment about Planned Parenthood selling bodies. That was debunked. But that's the kind of thing that it is, man, right? This whole pro-choice thing is just another facet along with this religious thing that they got going on, right? Because the only argument for pro-life people is a religious argument. If you ask the pro-life person, if somebody got an abortion, how does that affect your rights or your life in any way? They don't really have an answer for that, other than their made-up religious bullshit, right? And a lot of the politics behind pro-life and that whole abortion debate is about the political manipulation of gullible people, right? Remember what I told you about what's going on with the children that have been separated from their parents, man. Okay? The hysterectomies are horrific now. But I want you to just contemplate that. These pro-life people that vote Republican and think Trump's doing a good job, these children have been taken from their parents. That is an absolute fact. That's not fake news. That is reality, right? There are actual children in cages. There are actually families that have been separated, right? And if you want to sit here and say Obama did it, okay, well, you know what hypocrisy means, right? If it was wrong when he did it, it's wrong when we do it now, right? Well, if you are so pro-life, I want you to think, what would pro-life people do? They're so worried about the unborn. What would they do if they had children and they came home from work, or their children went to go see a movie or whatever the fuck, and they're gone? They don't know where their children are. They don't know who took them. They're just gone. How would they behave? How would they act? And they're so sanguine. They're just stoic. They have nothing to say about that, right? When you talk about the children that are being taken and ICE is harming them, they want to become legalistic and say, well, they should have came, and there's ways to immigrate. Well, wait a minute, I thought you were pro-life, man. I thought that pro-life supersedes everything. It really doesn't. You understand what I'm saying? These guys, these are political opportunists, right? That's all it is. It's political expediency, okay? Nancy Pelosi understands that there are enough progressives and liberals that have no fucking problem with restricting rights as long as they know that they won't get restricted. You know what I mean? For them. You dig what I'm saying? Like, Nancy Pelosi doesn't really care if abortion rights get restricted in Alabama, because Nancy Pelosi ain't fucking landing in Alabama anytime soon. Unless that NASA thing in Birmingham gets expanded and Nancy Pelosi gets invited to a fucking expansion of that spaceport or some shit, she ain't going to Alabama. She don't give a fuck, right? You got to understand, man, that this whole thing is on white supremacy, right? Like Lindsey Graham doing his thing, his flip-flopping thing, that's going to get Lindsey Graham kicked out. I doubt it. I used to live in South Carolina. Let me tell you something. When the 2008 campaign was going on, there was a white mayor. Was he in Anderson? Where the fuck was he? I forgot where he was. It was near Greenville. There was a white mayor that was running, and he was pro-Obama, and the white citizens in that town voted against him. Okay? I wish I can't remember it right off the top of my head, but that's a fact. And South Carolina whites will, how can I say, I shouldn't say South Carolina whites, that sounds bad. What's that movie, The Wild and Wonderful Whites of South Carolina, or some bullshit movie, I remember seeing it. But the white people in the Confederacy, don't count on them as your allies. They're not your allies. They're not your allies. They're not. I saw the other day, I think Act Blue, the website that gives out to progressives, raised something like $100 million in 48 hours or some shit. $100 million that they're going to distribute out to candidates. You know where a lot of that money is going to go? It's going to go to somebody named Amy McGrath in Kentucky. Amy McGrath is losing to Mitch McConnell by double fucking digits. She really is. Go look that shit up. Go look it up on 538. Go look it up anywhere you want. Amy McGrath isn't within striking distance of Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell's going to win his seat. He is. He's going to win his seat. Right? Because Chuck Schumer and the Democratic Senate Committee, when that Booker guy, when that progressive young black man, Booker, when he was running, they undercut him. And they spent all their money on Amy McGrath. She's got something like $50 million right now. I think Amy McGrath has a $50 million war chest or some shit like that. And a lot of that $100 million is going to go to her. You know why it's going to go to her, even though that she's about 10 to 15 points behind Mitch McConnell right now? All of the white political consulting class is going to feed at that trough. They're going to feed like maggots on a carcass. Amy McGrath is not going to win. She's not. She's not. Jamie Harrison might be able to pull it off, right? Mark Kelly, the former astronaut in Arizona, he could pull that shit off. That's a special election. If he wins on November 3rd, he goes to the Senate November 30th. Like that month, he becomes a senator. It's a special election. She was appointed, right? There's quite a few that could that could use that money, but a lot of that money is going to go to Amy McGrath. Because the political consulting class, the people that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are friends with, yeah, they feed off of that shit. So, you know, stop sending money to Act Blue, right? Act Blue is really good. I used to send money to Bernie Sanders. I used to send money to Kamala Harris. I used to send money to Beto Harris through Act Blue. Act Blue is really good. I'm not saying Act Blue is bad. Just stop sending it to them. Because they're going to send that money to Amy McGrath, and that shit, you might as well light that shit on fire. You might as well be Heath Ledger in that fucking scene in The Dark Knight, lighting your shit on fire, because that's what's happening. That money's not going to go anywhere. They're not worried about the pro-life court. They're really not worried about it. Okay? I want you to consider this, right? If they really wanted to change the court and really wanted to do something about pro-life shit, they could have done it fucking decades ago. They don't, right? Because it's a moneymaker for both sides. The Republicans get to pretend like they're moral. They're not. Come on, man. How many Republican politicians in your mind can you think of that have been busted doing gay shit or cheating on their wives or whatever the fuck, right? These aren't moral fucking people. Come on, right? And the Democrats love that. Pelosi loves that shit. Because she can raise money off of it to scare fucking white people who will never experience any of the problems that the policies that she allows to go through affect them. It's really not. Really. The white people that are spending, or the people that are sending that money to Act Blue, sending, you know, to give them $100 million, not one of them. Not one of them. Not one of them is really concerned about what's going on in Alabama, what's going on in Mississippi, what's going on in Arkansas, what's going on in Louisiana. St. John's Parish in Washington Parish is still having people die every day. There's still not a fucking hospital there, okay? There are still places in Alabama where you can contract diseases that are usually found in third world fucking countries. Flint, Michigan's water still hasn't been fixed. You understand what I'm saying? So this money that you're sending to Act Blue and all this shit, no, man. No. Understand, okay? They're all saying that Trump's got to go. But you got to look at it this way. Trump is like a WWE wrestler. Matter of fact, Trump is in the WWE Hall of Fame. That's a true shit. I got a friend of mine whose cousin, whose nephew is a WWE fan. He buys the fake belts and all that shit. He jumps off. He does all that shit. Donald Trump's in the fucking WWE Hall of Fame, man. It's a trip. It's a fucking trip. But I want you to think of it that way. Donald Trump is like a WWE wrestler named Ulysses. You know what I mean? Like if they had a WWE wrestler named Tales of Brave Ulysses, the meathead that play, I shouldn't call him a meathead, the athlete, because these guys are in really good shape. They really are. They're in fucking excellent shape. These athletes who pretend to be whoever the fuck they are, you know, the Darkness or, you know, the last time I watched wrestling, this is going to age me. Last time I watched wrestling, there used to be like the Kamala, the Ugandan Giant, the Sheep Herders from New Zealand, Jake the Snake Roberts. I mean, this is how long ago I used to watch fucking wrestling. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, that's the kind of shit I remember. I don't know what the fuck they're called now, right? But just imagine if there's a wrestler called Ulysses, right? Do you think that wrestler needs to know the tales of brave Ulysses? Do you think that wrestler needs to tell you how Ulysses and Achilles were friends? Does he need to tell you how Ulysses came up with the Trojan horse to end the Trojan War? No. He's pretending, right? He had a fucking clue as to who Ulysses was, right? Donald Trump is a front for a criminal organization. Sarah Kendzior calls him a transnational criminal organization. He's a front for that, but he's also a front for white supremacy. And that's what this shit is. That's what this shit is. That's what we're fighting, is white supremacy. That's what it's coming down to. Right? The people in the streets, the protests in the streets, they've had enough of that shit. A lot of people are having enough of that shit. Right? So I want you to consider it. I want you to consider it. There's a lot of people who are going through some hard times, and Act Blue comes up with $100 million in 48 hours. Is Nancy Pelosi saying, damn, man, these people are backing me up. Maybe I should really come out here and do some shit and shut down these golf trips that Cheeto Hitler's taking? Or maybe I should make Bill Barr scared and shit. You know what I mean? Maybe I should flex some fucking muscles here, right? Because if Paul Ryan and John Boehner can vex the Obama administration that had absolutely nobody under criminal indictment. No indictments, no criminal acts, nothing. Fuck, they got rid of Van Jones in like 60 days. And Van Jones is a coonin' ass, two-faced, coonin' ass coon. Okay? And they got rid of his ass in 60 days. Bye, bitch. Gone. Bye, Felicia. Out. There's nobody in the Obama administration that was in some major shit like Trump is. Yet, both Paul Ryan and John Boehner were able to vex the Obama administration from beginning to end for 8 years. You're telling me Nancy Pelosi that's it? That's all she got? Fuck out of here, man. Right? Anyway, just please, man. I want you guys to consider what you're sending your money to and who you think is actually representing you. They're not worried about any of that shit, man. They're not worried about any of that shit. Believe it or not, President Obama could have sued Mitch McConnell took him to court. Could have took him to court, right? It might have fucked up some shit, but at least they would have gave him a tinge of something, right? Nancy Pelosi ain't doing none of that shit. I got a quiver full of arrows, but I'm not going to tell you. What the fuck? You know, in New Mexico, even in Texas, we're allowed to carry weapons and open carry and shit. And even in Texas, I'm known for carrying a knife. There's a reason motherfuckers carry knives, man. It's not that I have a knife on my side and I'm not going to show it to you. Just the fact that I have the fucking knife on my side should tell you, hey, right? Because you got a quiver full of arrows, but she's not going to tell you what the fuck is in it. What the shit is that? Get the fuck out of here. Right? You got people talking about, man, you should expand the court. Is Chuck Schumer, what did he say? All things are on the table. Everything's on the table, man? What's on the table? Is Puerto Rico becoming a state on the table? Is Washington, D.C. becoming a state on the table? Is the Virgin Islands becoming a state on the table? How about Guam? Is Guam on the table? Everything's on the table. Is ending the filibuster on the table? No. I got a quiver full of arrows, but I'm not going to tell you. Get the fuck out of here, man. No. Listen, if you got money to send to Act Blue, I would strongly recommend, instead of sending money to Act Blue, you start investing in some home defense, self-defense, right? Just understand, man. We're fighting white supremacy. The battle is not if American democracy is on the ballot on November 3rd. What's on the ballot on November 3rd is Evangelical Theocracy. That's what's on the ballot. Okay? These evangelicals don't give a fuck about pro-life. They don't. They don't give a fuck about pro-life, man. Don't you remember in Florida during George the Dummer's presidency, there was that woman, Terry Schiavo? She was brain dead. Terry Schiavo was brain dead, and her husband, who became an RN or a CN or an LPN, I forgot which nursing designation he became, but Terry Schiavo's husband, I can't remember the guy's name, poor guy, I can't remember his name. He became one of those to take care of his wife for 10 years. During that time, he got into a relationship with a woman, I think about 5 or 6 years in, taking care of his wife every day, right? And his wife's brain dead. His wife's parents are evangelical Christians, right? This is what kills me about evangelical Christians. Your daughter's brain dead, but you want to keep her ass alive, but you believe that Jesus is waiting up there on the 5th star or some shit for your ass, for your daughter. But you want to keep her here. You believe in heaven, but you want to keep her here. I don't understand it. Anyway, they fought that shit, man. Don't you remember George Bush, the dumber one, George W., the dumb one, right? He even went to his little ranch in Crawford and had fucking straws thrown around this big-ass desk signing this right-to-life thing for Terry Schiavo. I ride a motorcycle. I'm sure people who watch my video ride motorcycles or ride bicycles or go fucking jogging. You do any one of those things and you get into an accident like Christopher Reeve and end up quadriplegic or some shit. Or let's say you end up brain damaged. You're telling me you want the local Bible thumpers to decide for your family whether they should take you off of life support? Get the fuck out of here, man. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit. Okay? Ask any pro-life person if your neighbor got an abortion and you found out about it some kind of way. How does that affect you? Does it pick your pocket? Does it break your bones? Does it take away from your food? What does it do to you? And their answers are all this religious bullshit, right? And that's what I'm saying, man. We got to cast off these shackles of these religious assholes because they're not even moral. It's all about making everybody else bow down to their shit. It's just like prayer in schools. You ask one of these fuck nuts about prayer in school, yeah, God needs to be back in school. Listen, I was a teacher. I taught 7th grade math. As long as math teachers give pop quizzes, children will pray in school. Okay? Bottom line. You don't need to force God into school. Go to any middle school and walk into a classroom where a pop quiz just dropped. I guarantee you some kids will be praying. Yeah, go to any high school and walk into the girls' locker room at a girls' high school. Somebody's praying. Somebody's praying. Yeah, prayer in school. Get the fuck out of here, man. You just want your particular prayer in school. You want your bullshit in school. You want people to worship your bullshit. Okay? You know? Yeah. Don't fall for the okie doke, man. They can sit here and talk about all this shit that they're planning on doing, but none of the people in power are actually saying they're going to do these things that you're hearing about. Nancy Pelosi is not talking about, a couple of days ago, there was a thing about blue state succession, like blue states should stop giving federal taxes because red states live on, hey, look, I live in New Mexico, dude. New Mexico is considered it's a blue state, but we're a taker state. We take more in federal taxes than we give in, but we have the Mescalero Reservation, we have the Navajo Reservation, we have all this shit. But that's a problem that the federal government has fucked over the First Nations people anyway. That's a whole nother argument, right? Talk to the Red Nation about that. They got all kind of political shit they need you to take care of, right? But anyway, blue states should stop giving money to the federal government. Stop supporting Arkansas and stop supporting Louisiana. Stop supporting Mississippi. Stop supporting Alabama. Stop supporting these fucking states. Stop supporting Kentucky. Kentucky had $100 million to build a landlocked fucking replica of Noah's Ark with dinosaurs and saddles on it, but their people are fucking the bottom in education and health. Get the fuck out of here, man. Right? Just understand. They're not interested in any of that stuff. They're interested in maintaining a quasi-status quo. If they're interested in making any type of changes, you would hear Nancy Pelosi talking about, you know what, man, that ginormous federal budget that we got, maybe we should stop sending some money to Alabama and Mississippi until they figure some shit out. You know what I mean? Maybe the Voting Rights Act is so important that if a state doesn't have a way for everybody to vote, then that state shouldn't get any more federal money. That'll straighten some shit out real fucking fast. You don't hear Chuck Schumer talking about let's get rid of the filibuster. You don't hear Chuck Schumer, he's still talking about my friend. Fuck that bullshit. Right? These people do not see you as friends. I promise you they don't. They don't. The QAnon people believe anybody that voted for Hillary Clinton, drinks children's blood and they want you dead anyway. Right? The evangelical Christians, unless you bow down to their fucked up religion, they want you dead. The white supremacists want you dead anyway. Right? So, yeah, just, man, understand that these people are not in trying to change anything. If they're really trying to change something, you'd hear the people who have the ability to change shit say shit. It would be Nancy Pelosi talking about, you know what? We're not waiting for the fucking election. The budget's coming in a couple of weeks, people. Right? Nancy Pelosi would be out there going, so, you know what? Since you're talking about the Supreme Court thing, let's start putting some shit on the table. Let's start putting some shit on the table. Let's start figuring out why Arkansas, Kentucky, and Tennessee have really good roads, but California and Illinois got fucked up roads in their blue states. Let's figure out why states that have the average income of like $8 an hour, right, have all these shiny new buildings and their people are living in trailer parks. How's that happening? Let's talk about that shit. Remember that county clerk in Kentucky that didn't want to sign that marriage certificate for the gay couple? Remember the news came out that county clerk's office where she works, her job made $80,000 a year in a county where the average salary was $28,000 a year. Let's talk about that shit. Let's get that shit out the way. Right? If Nancy Pelosi was absolutely fucking serious, there's an interstate compact thing that she could work out. My sister lives near Chicago, right? Everybody talks about it. The Republicans and conservatives use Chicago like a verb because, they can't just come right out and drop the N-bomb, right? So they use Chicago as a verb, right? Indiana has lax gun laws, man. When I go visit my sister in Chicago, if I want to go hunting and I forget my rifle, I can drive from her house to Indiana like 2 hours away and go pick up a hunting rifle and have it that day. 30-06, 45-70 Castle, that day. Seriously. It's no big deal, right? And that's just the beginning. You know? So it's like, it's ridiculous, man. They're really not interested in that. If Chuck Schumer was interested in that shit, he could put some fucking pressure on some people. Right? He could put some fucking pressure on some people. Right? And like I said in that last video, man, it's not just Mitch McConnell that has to worry. It's not just Mitch McConnell that has to worry. It's all these other motherfuckers that have to worry too. Right? Because Nancy Pelosi might be able to convince the people that are sending money to Act Blue that she's doing something with her quiver full of arrows that she's not going to tell you about. She might convince them motherfuckers. But the people that I see going to churches and going to get food in boxes, that's not going to do it for them. That's not going to do it for them. The landlord just put some signs. I went to the store a little while ago, and I'm driving by apartments with them big yellow eviction signs on them. That's not going to do it for them. That's really not going to do it for them. You know, it's they can play those games they want to, but this is on a different scale, man. Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell and the rest of them, they're fighting for a evangelical theocracy. That's what's keeping white evangelicals on Trump's side. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the rest of them, they're fighting for a status quo where they can still play semantic games about pro-life and all this other shit. And that's not going to work. That's not going to work, right? It's just, I was looking at that, man, $100 million? You guys got $100 million? To send to Act Blue so they can send it to people like Amy McGrath that's just going to light that shit on fire? That doesn't make any goddamn sense, man. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Why would you send that much money to these people when the people behind you and around you are fucking desperate as fuck? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. Nancy Pelosi's talking about she's got fucking a quiver full of arrows, but she can't tell you what it is. Chuck Schumer's talking about everything's on the table, but can't mention any of the things that are on the table. We can't get Puerto Rico as a state. If we get Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. as a state, that's 4 senators automatically. According to the Constitution, each state has to have the population and other shit for representatives can be district, but each state gets 2 senators. That's 2 for D.C., 2 for Puerto Rico. That's 4 right there. That ends the Republican control of the Senate, period. Ends it. Fuck all this other bullshit. Hey, we can do this, we can pack the... No, all you got to do... The Virgin Islands, D.C., Puerto Rico, and Guam. 2 each. That's 8 senators. Even if we get 5 of the 8 as liberal or progressive, the Republicans can't pull this shit anymore. Get rid of the filibuster and it's through. It's over. It's over. You get rid of the filibuster where one senator can just say, I got an objection. I can't tell you what the objection is, but we're going to table this shit and all this parliamentary shit. Get rid of the filibuster and say you're going to add Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico as states, and it's over. It's over. But they're not going to do that, right? They're not going to do that. You're not going to hear them say that. Nancy Pelosi could start talking about the budget's coming up, okay? The budget's coming up, and if the budget's coming up, let's start talking about the interstate compact. Let's start talking about how much money is being given to red states to balance their budget. Let's talk about how you took away the salt taxes for New York and Illinois and California, where those people can't deduct their homes from federal taxes. Well, let's talk about them not sending the federal taxes in. You're letting the West Coast fucking burn. The Alabama governor, Kay Ivey, just came out and said her state is a disaster. There's no federal relief because there's no fucking money. You guys are robbing us, so why should we send the fucking money? And watch what happens. If Nancy Pelosi comes out and starts talking about that shit, oh man, that putting somebody in notorious RBG seat would cease and desist immediately. That shit would turn off like a faucet. And let Nancy start talking about, hey, you know what, man? Let's renegotiate this fucking budget. And let's see how you want to put somebody in RBG seat? Okay. Let's renegotiate the budget for a full year. And let's see how Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, the Confederacy. Let's see how the Confederacy, Wyoming, right? Montana, North and South Dakota. Let's see how these states are when they got no federal money for a year. Let's figure that shit out. Let's see how that shit works. Right? I mean, at this point, man, I'm like this. I used to live in Texas. And in Texas, back, what was it, 2014, 2015? Those idiots were talking about Jade Helm. The federal government's going to come into Texas and take over some shit. Fort Hood is like the 5th largest military base on the continental United States. How the fuck is the federal government coming into Texas, you idiots? Oh my God. Right? It's fucking retarded. Right? So, you know, I have no more pity for these people. I really don't. I really don't. I don't. I'm sorry. Right? Because I'm at this point where the people who do not see that we're being played and they're not really interested in our suffering, it's blatantly obvious that there are 2 legal systems. Nobody in America can sit here and tell you that there's not 2 legal systems, right? Now we're looking at 2 ways of living, where there's this bourgeoisie that lives in this world where it's all about memes and political gamesmanship. And then there's a proletariat, there's the rest of us. The proletariat ain't gonna live that fucking long under that kind of atmosphere, right? Go take a look at what happened in the Bolshevik Revolution, right? Go take a look at what happened with Mao. You can't treat everyday people like this, man. You're telling me you have $100 million fucking dollars? $100 million fucking dollars? And food banks? I went to a food bank yesterday, dude. The food bank there is giving out like 1 packet of spaghetti, so a small thing of baby food, maybe 4 or 5 if you have kids, and people have $100 million to send to Act Blue. I don't even understand that. I don't even understand. And Nancy Pelosi's talking about, I got a quiver full of arrows, but I'm not going to tell you. Not going to tell me. Bitch, I better see you sharpening them fucking blades up. What the hell are you talking about? Okay, you know what, man? I'm sorry, I just had to vent because the shit is getting to this point, right? It's like there are pressures being applied to people, and the people at the upper levels are still playing fucking games. And it's, you know, I just, right? I don't know, man. Y'all stay safe out there. Tell the people you love that you love them. Stay safe out there.